One of the apologists who theists assure me is super smart and whose arguments I could never refute is John Lennox. But as you'll see, John Lennox is not super smart. John Lennox sucks.
And my main reason for believing in God as far as science goes is the fact that I can do science. Because that depends on the belief that this universe is rationally accessible. And Einstein said he could not imagine a scientist without that faith. So all scientists, whether theists or atheists, believe that the universe is rationally intelligible. But on what basis? Because my atheist friends tell me that the human mind that's doing this thinking is reducible to the brain, which is ultimately reducible to physics and chemistry, so that the thoughts are simply the results of motions of elementary particles. If that is the case, then why would we trust them?
It seems pretty intuitive to me that a brain made of matter and energy would be capable of accurately modeling the behavior of matter and energy. Wouldn't it make sense that the activities of a physical brain would be able to identify the laws of physics since it operates according to those laws? However, if our ideas about physics are the product of a non-physical mind, whatever the fuck that even means, then I see a valid reason to question their reliability. Why would you expect a non-physical mind to be better at doing physics than a mind which is itself a physical process?
And many philosophers today are pointing out that this reductionist materialistic thesis undermines science itself.
No, it doesn't. I suspect you just think it does because you think science uses the correspondence theory of truth when it actually applies the pragmatist theory of truth. Science doesn't try to achieve correspondence between theory and reality. It only aims at consistency between theory and observation. It could be the case that both theory and observation are contrary to reality, but all science deals with is the question of whether there is consistency between the two.
So my main problem with atheism is not that it's against theology, but actually it's against rationality. It gives no justification for the doing of science.
You seem to think that science is only justified if it can find the truth about noumenal reality. The justification for doing science is that it consistently appears to work. Even if it turns out that we're really in the Matrix and that our theories only apply to the Matrix, they are still useful for navigating it and predicting its behavior, and therefore they are justified.
Professor Polkinghorne, who taught me physics at Cambridge, said that physics is powerless to explain its belief in the rational intelligibility of the universe because you have to believe it before you do physics.
That's bullshit. Physics as a paradigm does not presuppose that we will never find anything that cannot be understood. It doesn't even presuppose that there is anything that can be understood. Whether everything or anything can be digested by science is not presupposed by science. We can only infer intelligibility a posteriori from the fact that lots of things have appeared to be intelligible. And again, it seems perfectly sensible that the behavior of a physical universe would turn out to be intelligible to physical brains. Why the fuck would anybody find that surprising?
But Christianity does give us grounds because it tells us that both the human mind and the universe out there are ultimately traceable to the rationality of God.
Lennox is another apologist who makes the completely baseless assumption that the default state of physical things is nonsensical chaos and that intelligible regularity must be imposed by a non-physical intelligence. There is absolutely no reason to assume this.
So that's the first point. The second point is it is that conviction that drove science in the first place. The great geniuses of science, Newton, Kepler, Galileo, and so on, all believed in God. And it seems to me that the consensus of opinion among philosophers of science is simply this. Men became scientific because they expected law in nature, and they expected law in nature because they believed in a lawgiver. In other words, far from science being hindered by belief in God, it was driven by belief in God.
Well, there are plenty of atheist scientists now who are just as driven as any theist scientists to discover patterns in nature. Many of them understand that intelligible regularities can exist without being intelligently imposed, and that the laws of nature don't require a lawgiver because they are descriptions, not behests.
Now, three major points from science itself. What science reveals is the law-likeness of the universe, and that speaks of a lawgiver.
No, it doesn't. That's an equivocation fallacy that conflates descriptive laws with prescriptive laws.
Physics and cosmology reveal the fine-tuning of the universe. Arno Penzias says, Nobel Prize winner, that fine-tuning leaves us with a universe so exactly position for life, that it could be said to operate according to a supernatural plan.
Yeah, it could be said because there's no shortage of shitheads who don't understand how nonsensical it is to say it. What the fuck is a supernatural plan? What the fuck is a supernatural anything?
And finally, consciousness. We are possessed as human beings not only of information in our DNA, but of an information processor of which we are ourselves aware, and that is personal. And it seems to me that that points not only to an intelligent origin, but to a personal origin.
How the fuck does that follow? The only way that would seem to follow is if you assume that personhood is magic and was therefore made by some other magical person. I also have a Patreon if you're into that kind of thing.